Welcome, everyone. Today we have Mayor Geierman, the mayor of Doraville, Georgia, with us. So we're excited to have a conversation today. Doraville is located in the northeast part of Atlanta area. And it's unique in that it's on the outside the perimeter and inside the perimeter. We've got like a little land bridge that's going through 285 to get the other side. But Doraville is roughly 10,000 people.
Actually, since our annexation, we're about 14,000.
14,000. How did the annexation go?
Well, I think it's great that we were able to welcome in, so many new residents, give them city services, give them, Doraville Police, Doraville Code Enforcement, our sanitation services. And so far, I've only heard good things. But, it's early days. It's really exciting to have this happen under my watch.
How does the annexation work from a negotiation standpoint?
Well,
I'm assuming you're annexed from DeKalb.
Well, yeah. There's a legislative process that you have to go through. So we worked with Representative Longtran as well as Senator Sally Harrell on drafting the legislation to allow for the people in this area to vote on the annexation. And they really did it based off of their conversations with people who live there about wanting to be a part of the city. And I think that the thing to really understand about these areas is that Doraville, as we were talking before the podcast started, is a very old city where we were founded in 1851. So there's a lot of history, and the way that the city kind of grew over time didn't necessarily always align with things like freeways and roads as they are today. So the area that annexed in was inaccessible without driving through Doraville. There were land, connections to the rest of unincorporated DeKalb County, but they were through a freeway. So you couldn't actually get there without going through Doraville. I think it made it more challenging for the county to provide services there, just because of their location within the middle of the city. And I think if you asked a lot of the people who lived there where they lived, they would have said Doraville even before the vote. So it's a little bit different than some of the annexations or incorporations where it's like a huge area with a lot of commercial development. Really, this was almost all residential, but it was the right thing to do to bring them into the city because they really are a part of our community and deserve to be treated like all the rest of the people who live within the city.
A lot of times these annexations are almost, they're selfish because they're getting a big piece of commercial property or something like basically they're getting tax dollars. They're getting the most possible tax dollars from just this small area, and so the annexation is really focused on revenue versus services. And you said you're basically focusing on services.
I wouldn't necessarily say that other annexations are selfish, but I would say for this one, a lot of the arguments sometimes are that you're grabbing all this tax revenue from the county. This, if anything, the county probably came out better on this one, but again, this really was a community that was within our city, and so it was a way to make them really get the same services as their neighbors.
A very willing annexation.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So you look at that in just pure numbers. I mean, that's a 40% increase in the amount of services in general that have to be provided throughout the city. So you got to get everyone. And Doraville is doing everything. Not all cities do their own police. Not all do their own sanitation. Doraville is doing all the services. So how did you go about saying, hey, we're going to, have the vote for this annexation, but then also ramp up all these services to be able to basically flip that switch and say, hey, Friday you were this, now Monday, and here's what happens.
I think it's, before we even got the legislation drafted, we had to really look at what would providing those services look like, what would it mean for our budget. And I think that's going to be sort of an ongoing process. We start taking things on and then recalibrate. And I know our council has had some discussions about some of those things, but the police, I think, actually started in December, then the rest of the services started in January. So it has sort of been a ramp up, but at this point, they're all 100% in the city, and we'll be monitoring response levels to make sure that we don't see a drop in service for any part of the city.
Was it like specifically with police? Did they just bring over all the files? Like, how does that transition happen?
I think that if something happened in the past in those areas, you probably still have to go to cab police to get the complaint or whatever the file is. But then going forward, they would all be
It all
toward
transitions
DeKalb.
over now. Yeah.
And does that mean you have to
Like
hire
Doraville.
your police force increased 40%, your sanitation department increased 40%, or it was not necessarily a linear?
I don't think it necessarily required a 40% increase. I think that we may look at some areas that are going to require increases in this coming budget year,
Right.
but I don't think we've made all of those decisions yet.
Gotcha. When was the date of the annexation? Was it this past
Yeah, it was in November. They voted
November?
on
Okay,
it.
so it was very recent.
Mhm.
Got it.
You have your eyes set on the next annexation?
I think probably I've got 3 years left in this term, and my guess is that we'll have our hands full incorporating these folks into our city. So I'll let the next mayor worry about that.
So there's not a lot of places in Atlanta where you can buy entire pigs at one time, but you can do that.
You could do that in
Doraville.
Doraville.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the farmers market that's there is kind of like an icon of anyone that's been in Atlanta for a while knows it, has hopefully probably been there, and it's really like a cultural icon of shopping.
It's one of the few
Right.
places you get breakfast, shop long enough to be hungry for lunch, get lunch, and then be home in time for dinner and spend the rest of the day like cooking a whole
whatever it is
pig
that you
or
bought.
whatever you bought.
And don't
Yeah.
forget your kids get to look at all the fish swimming around
Yep.
that you could have for dinner that night too. So
Yep.
That's fun.
Yeah, I think Buford Highway Farmers Market is one of the iconic businesses within the city. Actually, every year I record, rather than doing like a state of the city speech, we just record a video where we talk about what's happened in the past year. For this year's video, we actually did the opening and closing scene in the Buford Highway Farmers Market, and that really is because of its kind of primary placement within Doraville businesses, just its longevity alone. But I think it also tells a story about Doraville because the city really has been on the map for a long time because of the large number of immigrants who moved there, who opened businesses, who succeeded, whose children opened businesses, all within our area. And I think that Buford Highway Farmers Market is a multi-generational business. It's been in Doraville for 40 years, maybe more, and that really has become this landmark within not just Metro Atlanta, but within the Southeast for people to come here on the weekend. And there's not really anything like it anywhere else within the Southeast. So
Yeah, the place is pretty amazing. I mean, if you think about just from an entrepreneurship that's there, all those businesses that are in there are doing something highly unique, and they're all doing it in the same building. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool. When did we get the pig?
Oh, that was
We bought a
probably
whole
5,
pig
6
there.
years
So
ago.
you actually
We
did
bought a whole
Yeah.
pig. We did a whole pig roast. with
70
it.
pound pig. It was probably 5 feet long.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I also go there for Passover to get the shank bone. It's one of the few places you go and say, "Can I get a
So
shank
for
bone?"
Passover,
They'll
you got
give
the
you
whole
one.
pig and shank bone.
The pig's a different holiday.
So I mean, that's a big part of Doraville, and you're mentioning too. You have the city plan, which is a big reason why you wanted to become mayor and help drive all this stuff forward. Is like, what's the outline for Doraville? And I know there's been a lot of time and effort on the downtown core
yeah.
that you're trying to renovate.
So every city has what's called a comprehensive plan, and I really had no ambition or interest in serving on city council or as mayor, but I've always been engaged in my community, engaged in my my neighborhood, and wanting to see it improve, see it really succeed. And back in 2016, I had the opportunity to serve on the comprehensive plan committee, which helped form our 5-year comprehensive plan for that time. And I don't think there were any like big surprises that you'd see in it versus what you see in Doraville today, but it really laid out, seeing much more mixed use development along Beaufort Highway, somewhat denser development. Beaufort Highway is built out in the 1950s. There's a lot of empty parking space that probably could be utilized better. The city had not really built any housing since the 1970s. Part of the reason that we had been at around 10,000 people for so long was because
That was it.
the
That's all
number
you-
of places you could live was pretty limited. So we drafted this plan, and when I became passionate about it. So when a council seat opened up, I felt like it made sense to try to be an advocate on council for this plan. And then when the mayor's race came up, and kind of feeling a little frustrated that we had not been moving as expeditiously on making sure that our zoning, our planning, our policies lined up to that comprehensive plan, ran for mayor really with the goal of like, let's get the city moving in a single direction. Let's use the comprehensive plan as our guideline, and let's start working to implement it. And as part of that, obviously, seeing, I'm sure we'll talk about the development at the former GM plant was a big thing, but also really maybe most important to me was really seeing our downtown redevelopment take off, because the city has owned 13 acres of real estate right across from the Doraville MARTA station for the past 70 years. That real estate mostly today is small mid-century buildings with big parking lots surrounding them that is underutilized most of the day. Not very flexible. Most of them are used for one thing. But when you think about what that area could be with its location, it's right on Beaufort Highway, right by the MARTA station, really actually walkable for many of the neighborhoods within Doraville. It really could become a central gathering point and a nexus for our city to connect. And, seeing that downtown redevelopment that's envisioned in our comprehensive plan has been one of my biggest goals as mayor. I'm grateful that it also has been a guiding principle for our council, and we actually are we're partnering with Kaufman Capital Partners to work on this redevelopment, and we'll be moving City Hall operations temporarily to a location on Tilly Mill Road, and we'll be demoing the existing buildings, really doing the site planning, preliminary site, or the leveling, and we'll also get started on our new multi-functional city building, which will include City Hall, a library, and community space. So,
And a big theater too, like Sandy Springs.
I don't know that we're going to do a big theater like Sandy Springs, but I will say that the other thing that has been really important to me is promoting the arts, and I think this is important for our entire council as well. When I was elected to city council, and even as mayor, our city didn't allow any kind of public art. So if you want to do a mural, not allowed. If you
Not
wanted
allowed
to
according to rules and codes and just your local ordinances.
correct. You couldn't have a temporary art installation.
Wow.
It was completely disallowed. In 2020, we really got an art commission going, and were able to start getting the process together to allow murals. We now have several murals throughout the city. We're also focusing on trying to find more, sculptural artwork that we can place in different locations. We have been supporting through allowing them to use the space in our current civic center, theater company called Merely Players Presents. We have an old building that is not being demoed as part of this process that's in our downtown, and that they may be moving to. I don't know the status of those negotiations too, but I think the council's idea is that this will be a place that will function for art. We've also had a group called Doraville Art that has been getting currently space in a building that we own. And my hope is that in the new city center, we'll be able to provide space for them to do programming that benefits our residents.
And I know Dunwoody's getting involved in they actually had a grant for their famous sign, which some people got a lot of grief over. But are you going to get a sign bigger than Dunwoody's sign, you think, or you're not sure about that?
I guess I don't focus so much on, the signage or, branding is obviously important, and I want people to know when they're in Doraville.
Right.
But I really care more about how people will use the spaces and be able to connect with each other in those spaces. And so as long as we create places people want to be, I'll let Dunwoody have their big sign.
You let Dunwoody have the big sign. And we talked to Mayor Lynn about that sign. Remember the sign?
Oh, yeah. So is the city really making the first, hey, here are some buildings, we're willing to tear these things down, go move all of our operations, be uncomfortable for probably the majority of the rest of your term as mayor in this uncomfortable real estate position
this is a few
until it's all done?
This is a few years.
Yeah, I anticipate this is going to, my term is up in 27. I think it's going to go past that, but you have to start somewhere. And I think that one of, talking about Doraville being over 150 years old, one of the big challenges for an older city sometimes is just, when you have a new vision, you need to take the first step, and then the second step, and the third step. And so this is not sudden. We've been working on it for 5 years. So really, I'm glad that we're ready to take this next step. And even if someone else is in office, when we finally do move back to the new city hall, I will be thrilled that I was able to help move that process.
It's always an interesting question. How did you fund this through just reserves? Did you fund it through a bond? I know you worked with a capital partner, but how did you work through the funding of this project?
So I know you've talked to Mayor Park from Brookhaven, and I think for their city hall, they did something similar to us, which is create a special service district to help fund the construction. Our special service district is not just solely for the purpose of funding a city hall, but really for a lot of the costs that go into building this new downtown, because there will be new roads, stormwater, et cetera.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's like all the pieces have to get
and honestly, almost every business on Beaufort Highway, I think, when it's complete, will benefit from having this area that will attract more investment, more people to come, more people to spend money. I think the other way that we got money was last year. Also, during that same election period, our voters approved a $10 million bond referendum to support including new library space in this new government building. So that will help the
And
cost.
Doraville is going to run the library and not just use DeKalb library services, or mix.
This is a quirk of being one of the older cities in the county, but Doraville has owned its library for, since at least the 1970s, I think before that. And we get our books and the collection comes from DeKalb County,
Yeah.
but we pay for the librarians and for the building. We've talked to the county about whether there's opportunity to change that. But I think at this point, if we did reconfigure that agreement somehow, we would still own the building and rent it to them, because at this point we've made plans to include it in our government building.
So how does Doraville? Obviously, the General Motors factory that was in Doraville for many years,
70 years.
70. Wow.
and then it was vacant for 10 years
It was
ish,
vacant for about 20 years.
20 years. Not doing very well in the
No, you're right. You're right. It was actually it closed in 2008, and then they started construction of it in like 2021. So
yeah, so they built the assembly plant there, which is, or not a plant, but now basically a movie studio off that third rail studio that's over there. So you have a huge part of Doraville that's this like growing industry within Georgia.
Yeah, I think we're very lucky that Gray Media found that site and decided that it was someplace that they felt like they could bring this vision that they had to life. I think one of Doraville's big strengths is that we are not reliant on any one type of business or property type for our income. So having the film industry along with all logistics, wholesaling.
What about the big fuel depot?
Fuel tanks.
Tell us about that.
250
it's humongous.
acres ish. It's
Yeah,
like a heavy manufacturing.
Honestly, its history goes back to, kind of modern Doraville. They built the first one of those in 1948, which is about the same time that the GM plant was being built. And I think they built that fuel tank, all those fuel depots out like by the 1960s. I think they were complete, and then there's houses around them. It actually funds or actually supplies fuel to the majority of gas stations in Metro Atlanta. There's another smaller one, I think, in Cobb County somewhere, but really this is the biggest one in Metro Atlanta, and probably if you get gas in Atlanta,
It's coming from there.
It probably came from Doraville. I'll say that has been a challenge for us just in terms of maintaining the roads that are driven by these
All the
tanker trucks.
Yes.
But again, I'm proud that last year we were able to. We've been kind of struggling with how to deal with repaving and making sure those roads are well maintained going forward, because they were really bad. I've popped a tire on some of the roads in that area. You talk to Mayor Deutsch, she's popped her tire on one of those roads. But we were able to repave them. We actually create a special service district for the we call them tank farms, for those all the oil tank suppliers.
I mean, it's huge. You look on Google Maps. I mean,
Yeah,
there's quite a few tanks. So Tanks Farms is a good.
The thing is that the property value of all those is very low. So, if based on what the tax assessor says that property is worth is what they bring in. And so it wasn't really enough to be paying for road maintenance, but the special service district is specifically for businesses that are, supplying this gasoline throughout Metro Atlanta. And that's how we were able to get the money to repave it. And I think that future councils will decide whether they want to keep it or not. But I would assume if we still have still have those
It doesn't look like they're going anywhere.
Those gas businesses there will still need to keep the roads
Yeah.
maintained.
So when the assembly started being built, I mean, the tank farms have been there forever. So assembly comes in, they start building out all their infrastructure. Now you've got you basically got two major pieces of your city that are.
Well, I guess, the tank farms, they're not going anywhere. I think that until or unless,
Stop using gasoline
gasoline
cars.
really,
Right.
really goes down, then someone in the future will have to figure out, okay, what are we going to do with
That's
this area? But
Yeah, massive cleanup.
that's been there. That's kind of a built-in fact of the city. I think the challenge with the location of the former jam plant was that it was truly like this area in the center of the city that 160 acres that was dead. Nothing was happening there for
it was literally like brown dirt, and
2008. Yeah,
right on two major highways. So
well, and even before that, like I think they demoed it in 2016, I think, but even before that, like it was just a big empty factory for the 10 years before, or 8 years before that. So having something productive that actually is bringing people to the city there is great. I think that there will be add-on businesses. I think that for Doraville in general, it's good. We're still in a good position because it's good to have a lot of different types of industries here. Film industry, even if something happens there, I think that they've done a lot of the basic infrastructure work that
you could do a lot there. I mean,
a lot more things can happen in that.
Was there any
location.
did they do any housing that came with that? Because there's a lot of jobs and
There's
people being
housing
there,
in there's a plan for that area, and while they only built out the studio portion, housing is supposed to be in phase 2 and 3.
And I thought I read someplace that there was some affordable housing component that there was a requirement to add a certain number of units to be affordable, and I guess based on income or.
Well, there actually was kind of on the outskirts of this area, and you don't actually see it in assembly. It's actually kind of more on the Peachtree Road side, but there is a affordable senior development that the previous owner of the site built because they had taken certain credits from the federal government.
Got it. And so that's there right now, open and in business.
Correct.
And then I mean, right off 141 where the new townhome, the
Oh,
new
yeah.
housing development is. I mean, that's a huge project too. That
Right,
was
pocket,
basically
just north of 285.
Yeah,
Right
I mean,
across from the Chili Mill, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know what you're talking
Chili Mill,
about.
Mill.
Yeah, I think that we should see homes going for sale there soon. So
How many? You know roughly how many? It looks like hundreds.
I don't think it's a lot, but I don't know I don't know the exact number.
It's
off
one
the
of
top
those.
my head.
Every time we drive, our office here when we're a little bit north of Doraville, but every time we drive in Doraville, drive through, go to Atlanta, you see that development site of them moving stuff all the time. They have the roads and everything in now. Though it looks cool.
Yeah,
But it's definitely a big project. Good
Yeah,
for housing. I mean,
I think that it's one of those things that we've been watching come to life. And again, it's making sure that you've got your plans in place so that when a developer like that comes along, you're able to get it approved quickly, and they don't have to jump through a lot of steps to make it happen.
I guess it's back to if they're going to build in your city, say, please build in your city, and how can we make it easy for you to build in our city rather than how can
and
we
follow
throw
the playbook
roadblocks
we
in?
have.
Yeah.
Well, I think as long as if you're coming to our city and you want to build something, that meets the comprehensive plan, we should be working as hard as possible to help you
Say yes.
you get that done and not have to jump through multiple hoops. So, I can't say that there's never a time when a property developer, somebody who wants to purchase property, doesn't have to come before council. But I'll also say that we've really worked hard to try to streamline that process as well. So, I'm sure you guys have had to go before planning commission, city councils. We have a pretty structured setup so that, the planning commission meeting is on the first Wednesday of the month. The city council hears all zoning issues on the third Wednesday of the month. And so, you can get through those two hurdles within, a month, assuming you get the stuff that the planning department needs ahead of the
Time.
the
Yeah. Get
ahead
your
of
stuff
the
submitted on time. And
planning commission meeting. Yeah.
so what are the next steps in the city? So the city hall infrastructure, all that stuff's happening. When are you moving this? When are you abandoning ship and moving to the temporary space?
We will be moving this summer. I think we're very close to awarding the contracts for the kind of
Get it all started.
relatively light renovation that we have to do to the space we're moving to.
Yeah.
And then we'll move, and then I think the bulldozers come out for the rest of our space.
You get to drive any of them?
I've been told I'm not allowed to since I think I participated in one where the fuel line of the thing came apart, and I'd rather leave the heavy equipment.
You're like, okay, next.
Yeah, I'll leave the
We'll
heavy
pass on
equipment
that one.
to the pros.
So are there other projects planned within the city, within the comprehensive plan that are going to happen at the same time?
I think that's a lot. I mean, we still.
Or on the private side? No.
We've really focused a lot on making sure that we're aligning things, we're simplifying our zoning. We've gotten rid of certain zoning codes, which you guys might appreciate. Most people find it boring, but we've really tried to streamline what coming to the city looks like. But we do have a range water development that I think if they aren't now, they will soon be having the first part of their multifamily apartments available for rent. We're working on a lot of trail and pedestrian safety improvements throughout the city. Again, Doraville kind of came into current Doraville came to its own in the 50s and 60s. So everything is very car oriented, which is great. But if you want to get around by bike or by foot, sometimes it can feel a little dangerous. So we just want to make sure that everybody feels like they can get around safely. And so we've really been working on trail projects. So Andrew, in your other life, we see each other through the DeKalb County Public Schools. There is a big high school project that's happening in Doraville.
There's two, although one's just south of you. But
in
there's two that are gonna
Doraville. In
affect you.
Doraville.
Yeah, right.
And we've been working with the school district on helping build a portion of the Peachtree Creek Greenway that
Could connect into the high school, or
it's going to run along the backside of the high school, and kids could use it to go to school, and it's part of our kind of bigger trail master plan. We have a lot of plans, but my big thing has been we can't just plan; we have to also
get started on some of
focus
them.
on implementing those plans as we do them.
So Doraville currently doesn't have its own high school. There's not like a Doraville high school.
There's not, and we again, we're part of the county school district, but when there were a lot of kind of consolidations back in the late 80s, Sequoia High School, which is the site of this new high school, was closed. They're building a high school and middle school, and I've been assured by the COO of DeKalb County Public Schools that it is going to be a school that will be districted for people who are local to the area.
An attendance zone school, right? And this is actually being voted on this month, so the final approval is this month.
Tell your colleagues.
Yes. I'm one vote, just remember that. And
Yes, I mean that's a huge project for Doraville. I mean it's great.
'cause-
You've had a lot of between the downtown, between the assembly, between this kind of stuff. That's a lot of development
Doraville,
in one pretty tight area.
and it didn't have a high school. But Doraville High School was essentially in south of Doraville and Brookhaven, and so that's been one of the struggles of why is this high school at all of these. Was it 8 miles? Doraville is about 8 miles. So these students would have to travel 8 miles on a very congested road just to get to school.
Oh,
every
you mean
day.
it's 8 miles distance away? Their high school is 8 miles away from.
I mean, if you look at the school district maps, I won't go too much into this, but Doraville is 56% Latino per the last census, and if you look at the school district maps, which are old, I think they predate. They've been this way for a long time, but Doraville is in this district that is just a very long, narrow strip along Buford Highway, and so I think that for whatever reason at the time they
At the time,
did
there's
that.
always a good reason at the
I
time.
think they, decided we're going to put all the kids from Spanish-speaking families in the same school. But I do think that I'll say, I've had to knock on doors a number of times in different elections, and people do care a lot about schools, especially if they've got kids going there. And one of the big complaints that I would hear over and over again was, why does my kid have to ride on a bus for an hour twice a day to
Yeah.
get to
And you're being
get
very
to
kind,
school.
but basically it's a very gerrymandered school district where it was said, okay, all those kids are going to go to one school and we're just going to keep them away from the other kids. And so it was unfortunately that, but that hopefully will be changing where it'll be more of an attendance school, and schools from other cities, I'm assuming, when Doraville fills up the school, there'll be schools from the surrounding area. It'll be more of a circle attendance area versus right now where essentially the school zone, if you look at it, it's like a gigantic banana. It's essentially like a
Mhm.
big, long, thick, this is the school zone, and the high school is actually at the bottom of the school zone, which is just kind of weird because usually, a high school is in the middle of a circle,
Right.
and this is just not that. So
yeah, it
that
looks like an
problem's-
election map almost.
that problem is being solved.
So they're just going to build it on an existing site they have, though. The
Yeah,
DeCab
I think
owns or
that-
the,
I think
or that the city
that,
owns?
The school system, I think my understanding, again, this is not part of the city of Doraville. It's its own entity, but my understanding is they like to use properties they already own and not
Go buy new
purchase
ones?
other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like in Doraville, like how would you could you find 30 acres in Doraville to build in a school right now, or probably not?
Well, I will say, I said that, but they also did, buy an apartment community and then built Doraville United Elementary School. So,
Right.
it's kind of, maybe you could find it, but I think that it does make sense to really focus on the space you
there you go.
have, and
because we have Druid Hills right now, and Druid Hills is like a 10-acre site, and or 11 acres, and they want to build a high school on it. And it's 10 acres for a high school is just tiny.
I think the challenge is everyone's concerned about using eminent domain too much, and in some cases, that might become like
Eminent
part
domain
of
is a
it, yeah.
bad word, but sometimes has the city had to do eminent domain on anything? your
Not
time?
since
Oh,
I've been
it
here,
gets-
but
that's where it gets exciting.
I think
Yeah,
What,
that,
with the Doraville military?
The Doraville military, yes.
no, I mean, I think that we haven't, but you can see cases where
Yeah.
there's something that has to happen for the greater public good, and you need a particular property to make it happen. Wouldn't want to see that happen. Thankfully, it hasn't happened under my watch. Hopefully, it doesn't.
Right.
But it's
Well,
hard to say.
You're also very local, and so eminent domain is almost very personal for you. But like GDOT does eminent domain all the time because they're doing things,
Yeah.
and there's
They're going to do eminent domain in Doraville for their massive project for the new toll lanes that they're building.
right, and there's no constituent for that eminent domain they're doing. They're not going to not elect somebody because they kind of took away their property.
GDOT has a lot of authority in the state of Georgia just
Yeah.
because of the way they're set up.
What about when we started our business? We probably went to the Home Depot in Doraville on we were on like a breakfast and lunch schedule. So it'd be like, how do we get stuff there?
On the
We
way
go
to
back-
Chick-fil-A and
Yeah.
before and after Chick-fil-A on Buford Highway.
The area was just always packed. The Chick-fil-A would be backed onto Buford Highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think both those businesses still do really well.
Yeah.
So I think every time I go to Home Depot, there's still tons of cars in the parking lot. So
Yeah, that one is specifically is like the busiest Home Depot we ever go to.
yeah,
It's nuts.
I love that they're doing well, and I hope they stay for a long time. And they've been great partners in the city.
I did one checkout counter at the end that I would always go to. We were there like 2-3 times a day for months, and every time I go, like, hey, can I get 10% off? It's like, no, but I'll give you a candy bar. Like, I'll take the candy bar. So I was always negotiating for like something new every time.
You got free candy bars from
Yeah.
Home Depot.
all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, I always got something. We always had to go to the same cashier. You had to be nice.
Yeah,
Like,
but that business still is very entrepreneurial, even though it's huge.
yes.
They do a great job operating. It's
Yep.
impressive. Yeah. Cool. So what else you like doing in Doraville? You said you've been there 24. You lived there
Yeah,
24 years,
we
so
moved,
you know a
my
little bit
husband
about
and
it.
I bought our house there at the end of 2021. So, or 2001, sorry. So I've been there, 23, 24
Okay,
years.
and 2001 does not mean $500,000 either, because houses in Doraville right now are basically houses in Doraville used to be, I would say, affordable. Is there such thing as an affordable house in Doraville anymore?
I mean, I think it depends. I think that it depends on what you consider affordable.
Well, could a single income person right now buy a house in Doraville on a one income paycheck?
I mean, I think it depends on what the
Yeah,
what
that's
your
a-
income
what's a-
is. I
Yeah,
mean,
but that's just it. That's just it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like a 20-year-old, one.
This is one of those
income-
theoretical math equations that has
Yeah,
like
I
just
think
letters
it
A,
would
B, and
be-
C. Like, how do you
Yeah,
get there?
yeah, yeah,
it would be more difficult for my husband and I to buy the house that we have today if we were the same age and at the same income level that we were back then to buy it today. But I think that's a problem everywhere. I personally believe that I'm not necessarily a believer that you need to subsidize affordable housing everywhere, but I really do think that we've made it very difficult to build any housing. And so what I really personally have tried to focus on is what can we do to make it easier to build housing generally throughout the city. And I will say that it's controversial when you're kind of dealing with, we've got a lot of single family property owners who, are worried about like changing the character of their neighborhood, but we also want to give them flexibility to be able to have like a mother-in-law come move in with them,
Right,
but still
right.
have her own space. We did pass an ADU law that allows for someone to build an accessory dwelling unit under certain circumstances if they own a property.
Only just only circumstances, not just blanket ADU.
It's not blanket. You've
Okay.
got to meet certain circumstances.
And so, what's good? How
Like, I want to be able to rent this to someone else and earn some extra
I want
money.
to build 4
I
ADUs in my
think
backyard.
you need to actually live in one of the two
Okay.
properties. So
But if you own a house, you could build
as long
something
as
on it.
as long as you live there, and that's really the thing. Is
You don't
I
want
think
it to be
that the concern was
dual
to-
investor property.
the
Like, you live
concern
there,
was
you could-
that someone who doesn't live there will just say, hey, this is a chance to maximize our
Yeah.
return and to put more properties in there. I think that our council wanted to make sure that the people who were putting these in were invested in the community and wanted to see it, but they also still wanted to provide that flexibility that being able to build an ADU would
So what's
provide.
gonna stop Doraville from kind of following the Brookhaven and Chambly lead, where all of the older the 1950s and 1960s inventory will eventually be knocked down, and then the mega mansions will be created? Or is that something that you guys are thinking about right now? Because essentially Doraville is the last city in this northern area that hasn't gone through that, crazy development where those old houses are being knocked down and then everybody's building up.
I think we've talked about that at different times. I think that the challenge is that you know, I personally love mid-century architecture, and I live in a mid-century ranch house built in 1953. I love it. My neighborhood is on the National Register of Historic Places. It's one of the first California-style mid-century developments in Georgia. Northwoods, which is a great Doraville neighborhood. But at the same time, people have rights, if they own property. And I think that it's difficult to say you can't build what you want on the property that you own, as long as what you want to build meets the zoning requirements. So we have had discussions about, maybe in certain areas you can only build up to a certain height, or, do different things. But I also think that you need to be careful with that, because I think sometimes placing those types of limits actually increases the costs of housing generally, because you are preventing something newer from getting built. So
And they'll find a way around whatever you wrote and then make it just within that parameter and still building essentially what they wanted originally, but just having to increase the cost of what they're building because they had to build a wider house or ask for a variance or, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I love Doraville's current neighborhoods. I think that they're beautiful. The architecture is beautiful. The character of the neighborhoods is beautiful. But I also think that we need to be really careful about anything that we do that limits what a property owner can do to their home.
It's a tough one.
So speaking of that, you have a lot of first generation immigrants. How do you feel about chickens? And how often do you hear about chickens?
Well, you can have chickens in your property?
Chicken in the backyard. Like, can I have one? Can I have 10?
Because he wants to have chickens.
You can actually cannot have chickens in your backyard in Doraville currently.
How often does this come up? I'm assuming
that has come
frequently.
up at different times. There are strong opinions on all sides of the city about that. I guess my personal thought is that, people who are going to, cheat the law by, having a rooster or whatever, those are probably the people who are going to have one, even if the city has a rule against chickens generally. And so probably by preventing chickens, we're just stopping the people who would follow the rules from having something. I think that one of our council members is bringing that back for a discussion, and we have some new council members on, so we'll see if the conversation goes differently than the last time. I personally am not opposed to backyard chickens, as long as we're not creating like health hazards or noise pollution for
The
neighbors.
roosters are usually the problem.
The chick, yeah.
The-
But
the-
Josh is moving to Doraville. If they allow chickens in, he's in. Peachtree Corners doesn't have chickens.
No chickens.
So he's like, what am I going to do?
Our neighbors still put them out, but they don't allow them.
Yeah.
They don't allow,
Yeah.
but your neighbors have them.
Yeah.
But no roosters.
Yeah, I mean,
You can't-
they have them for a very limited period of time, because as soon as the hawks find them, they're gone, or the foxes find them, they gone.
Oh yeah, they're eaten.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's part
Poor
of
chickens.
I was
part of
just
cycle
at
life.
at my dad's house this weekend, and his neighbors have chickens, and they weren't that loud. They're just like out in the yard clucking around. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't.
And they eat a lot of the bugs on
Yeah.
the ground. So as long as you maintain them.
So we need to insert the chicken advertisement for
Yeah.
backyard chicken
Yeah,
coops for
exactly.
Josh.
Well, yeah, you have a big wire cage at your place for your chickens,
That's in Lumpkin County.
and you have chickens though.
On acreage.
That's
On
totally
Yeah.
different. That's a different planet
Yeah.
compared to.
So next time I see
Doraville.
Molly, your daughter, I'm gonna say, "Hey, Molly, don't you want chickens in your backyard at home?"
Oh, I don't know.
See if
We
she
have
goes
we
for
have a
it.
pet dog.
Yeah, but
That just sounds like introducing chaos.
do you like the dog though?
I do, but that sounds like introducing chaos. I don't want to do that. No. No. Cool. Alrighty.
And
Well-
we talked about art a lot, and so you have a
You remember the thing they did in Atlanta,
The murals.
the murals project they did, like the living walls?
You would
you remember
donate a
that?
wall. and a muralist would come out, and the city would pay that muralist time and materials. So
Yeah,
we
they did
donated
it
a
in-
lot of walls to that
Yeah.
on our buildings.
And like the old Fourth Ward.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just-
we've worked on a few projects like that, and I think the city, we don't have the same kind of arts budget that City of
So, yeah.
Atlanta does, but we have partnered on some great murals. So if you went to Pine Tree Plaza, one of our first murals is a kind of it was done by someone who I think has roots in the area, but she painted kind of a food tour of Buford Highway on this this wall that, you know, it's a beautiful mural. I mean, I hope more people could see it, and I like bringing people by there just to see
See
how
what it looks like.
cool
Yes.
it is.
Speaking of bringing by people, like if you brought a friend to Doraville, what would you do? And they were there for the first time. What would you do in Doraville with your friend?
Make him go buy a whole pig at the farmer's
Make
market.
a-
I
Would you have
think
a
going to
pig-
the farmer's
He's gonna take
market.
one.
I think going to the farmer's market is definitely something that would be on the list. I also, you know, as part of the assembly development, they did build a big park as well right in the front. That is a park that's open to the public, and
It's going to be connected to all the trails too in the area too, I believe, isn't it?
well, yeah, they actually also have a trail along the Peachtree roadside, so you can
Right.
walk the park, walk onto the trail. There are other trails. We actually have done a road diet on Motors Industrial, and there's a bike path that goes along there, so you could take them over there. I mean, I'm probably going to drive people around if I'm taking them to the city.
You're not going to ride a
You
bike
could,
on Motors
could bike
Industrial.
over there, but
Yeah.
just show them that. Some of my favorite restaurants, we have 3 Michelin recommended restaurants in the city. One of my favorite restaurants is Lanjiao, which is one of those Michelin recommended restaurants.
I don't
So
think I've been there.
might take them there. It's they make hand pulled noodles. You can actually see them making the noodles in a window that looks into the kitchen. It's really great. You can see YouTube videos of people coming here from all over the country to have food at that restaurant. I think you know, I'd also, you know, walk my dog through my neighborhood, which you know, again, is Northwood. It's a mid-century
Historic, yeah.
mid-century neighborhood that really doesn't have a lot of teardowns and really does give a lot of mid-century character. We have 2 parks in the middle of the neighborhood that you know, there's constantly people doing stuff at. We just renovated some tennis courts that are now tennis and pickleball. So
Oh boy,
Oh,
pickleball,
pickleball's in,
pickleball.
yeah.
There it is.
if my person I was giving the tour to was into pickleball, we could play a game there. So yeah, I think, you know, really we could find all kinds of stuff on Buford Highway, and
Yeah.
the new school is in your neighborhood. I mean, you're really close to the new school.
yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, within a mile. of
And you have a
where I live.
5K rate. I mean, you have a pretty big, strong neighborhood association too. So you're
Do you have a neighborhood 5K? Or
Uh,
Doraville
yeah, well,
5K?
it's I mean, I wouldn't say it's like you did it last year, right?
I think I did it for 2 years, but
Um,
yeah, I think I did it last year.
I mean, I don't think it's not like huge numbers of people from outside are coming in, but it's kind
Yeah.
of like a neighborhood thing where people get together. Not everyone's running, but people are walking, and they kind of do a loop through the entire.
Yeah, a lot of
Andrew was running.
Kids
You
are
take
walking.
it competitively?
And I got 3rd place this weekend in the old man group at Brook Run. So just remember that, okay?
The old man group.
The Daffodil 5K was this past weekend. The Daffodil 5K is for all the children remembered during the Holocaust. So of course I have to run that. And yeah, because I remember that neighborhood is just really nice. It's just a nice, cozy, close. Everyone sort of knows each other. You have a lot of community participation, and it's just it gave me that feeling of like, you know, it was just a connected group of people who like are there intentionally versus just someplace to live.
Yeah, I think a lot of us came to the area because it is such a convenient place. But I think those of us who found found that neighborhood, Northwoods, and really I hear this from everywhere, but kind of fell in love with the place and with the people in the community there.
Anything else you'd bring him to that you can think of?
No, I think we've covered it. If you have anything else, happy to answer any questions.
What do you do for fun on the weekend?
I tend to have very quiet weekends.
You got 2 jobs, and just to be clear, you have a full-time job.
Yeah, so I'll say on the original version of the questions you said something about like, how do you get into this career? Being mayor is not my career. Being mayor is kind of, it's not exactly volunteer. I do get paid for it, but not a lot, and it's not what pays my bills. It's really a community service that I do because I care about the place I live. My day job is managing the lease portfolio and capital projects for a large law firm. And so I am, I sometimes have like stuff for the city that I have to do, but I try to also make time just to do things for myself, like go to the gym. I like to read. I read science fiction. I like to travel. We've traveled to all 7 continents at this point, and there's still some places that I still am excited about going to at some point. But and we don't currently, but we used to foster dogs. So the last group we worked with was Great Pyrenees Rescue of Georgia. Great Pyrenees are great dogs. There's a lot of them, surprisingly, in Georgia that
They're massive dogs.
need homes. Yeah, our dog is. So we adopted the last foster we had because he was with us for 6 months and didn't work out at any of the places that tried to adopt him, and kind of fit well into our lives. And but he's 102 pounds, so
Wow.
he's
That's a big dog.
definitely-
That's a person.
definitely.
Does he get along with chickens?
Probably not. Actually, I would not be a good
It's
candidate
like,
for backyard.
We had
chicken.
6, now we have back to just one. Great
Where's that
Pyrenees.
other chicken that we had? Yeah.
So yeah, but it's I think with any of the mayors that you talk to, the ones that have 2 jobs, we're probably all trying to balance this, our other job, and try to have some semblance of a personal life.
What do you say?
No, I have a buddy that adopted boxers, and every time I went to his house, Matt, every 6 months I went to his house, he had another boxer, and I'm like, dude, there's 3 dogs now. What are you doing? He's like, oh, it was another failed adoption. I'm like, failed adoption meaning like nobody else wanted the dog, or you weren't willing to let the dog go. So you find it was one way or the other, like you fell in love with the dog and couldn't.
We had a number of fosters that did go on to find homes. Our dog his name is Polar. He, I think he came from kind of harder circumstances. He had a harder time settling into the other places. And after he'd like bounced back to us a couple of times and been with us for 6 months, it's hard for us to decide to keep putting him through that. So we thought it was best for him. And, and then at that point, we stopped fostering because we just were focused on, providing a home for him.
Is this a long-haired dog?
Very.
Yeah, they're long.
So does this mean you have a robot vacuum running all day, or
Yeah, well, I think usually, probably somewhere on me,
There's something.
there's some dog hair on you?
long white hair, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, if you're coming to Doraville, visit the farmers market. It's quite an
number
experience.
one.
It's amazing. So, Mayor Geierman, thank you very much for spending some time with us today and talking to us about Doraville. And we're excited to have you here. So thank you.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.